Hey everyone, and boy, do I have a story for you today. We're going to be talking about preparation. There was a story about a man in the 1960s. He was the mayor of a small town called Fudai. His name was Kotoko. And as they were doing their planning and developing, they started working on their seawall. Well, as the mayor, he had the governing power to pick like what it looks like, how it's built. And so on one side of the city, he built a huge floodgate and right where the coast meets the river. And so they started building this huge seawall. It ended up being 51 feet tall.
Wow.
Crazy. It's the tallest seawall on the northeast coast of Japan. And all the residents who lived there were angry, furious, because this was blocking their oceanfront views. And they thought it was too expensive. They thought it was ugly. But the mayor would not back down. And the reason why he didn't back down is because when he was young, in 1933, there was a massive tsunami that came and wiped out that town.
Oh, wow.
So opinions were all circulating. They all wanted him to stop, but he didn't relent, and he finished his vision. Opinions about the mayor drastically changed 51 years later on a Friday, March 11th, 2011. When a massive tsunami that was described as the Black Wave, darker than any nightmare, struck Japan. Towns all up and down the coast were wiped out, but not Fudai. The wall that nobody wanted held back an ocean of death and destruction. And in the aftermath, a reporter came to the residents and said, "Hey, so what do you think about your mayor now?" And she responded that they appreciated the mayor, and now they called him the hero of Fudai. Hi, I'm Pastor Chris. This is Pastor Amy.
Hey, guys.
Welcome to the LABC Life Podcast.
Welcome. Today is day 18 of the Way of Wisdom, and our scripture reading today is from Proverbs 24, verse 27, and it is entitled The Field and the Vineyard. So we're going to begin reading verse 27. Prepare your outside work, make it fit for yourself in the field, and afterward build your house.
So the first part starts with prepare your outside work. The idea is that before the house is built, that you need to work on the property, okay? And there's a lot of pieces here we could look at, but the field and the ground must be made ready. And wisdom is trying to talk to us about something here, that there's certain types of work that come before other things. So if we properly plan and execute, then we're going to see things working together like they should.
Yeah.
So this would include things like plowing the land, planting gardens, orchards, and eventually, what's this going to produce?
Yeah.
It's going to produce fruit.
I can imagine there'd be a lot of toiling
A lot of
during
work.
the preparation of the
Hard
land.
work.
Yeah, I remember just planting a patch for a garden, getting that ready on the outside of our house. It was like it took forever. You had to toil up all those roots, the grass, the dirt, and then you had to add different type of soil. So I'm sure, like to build a foundation, you have to add other structure before
Especially
you
for a
actually
vineyard.
build.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but there's a law of seed time and harvest, spiritual law that will never cease, that what we reap, what we sow will affect what we reap, and how we sow affects what we harvest.
Afterward, build your house. So after we've prepared the land, then we build. Some want to skip right away to the building without preparing the field and doing the preparation work first, and then afterward building your house. There's, like we were talking about, a lot of toiling going on here where you prepare and then you build.
And the field may take quite an amount of time before it's going to produce for you. So there's a lot of investment before you can eat
Before
that
you
first
even see.
thing.
Yeah, like Chloe planted a crop of carrots and, they're growing underground. So you can't even see much of what's going on up, until a couple weeks pass by. Then you start to see this little shoot arise, and then all of a sudden it gets really high, the carrot tops, and then you pull it out and there's a beautiful big carrot. But it's cool, like when you actually see the production from
It's nice when you see the
the
evidence.
produce of your work.
The final result is what we all look for. But
It
the
takes
reality is that the work is a part that's necessary. Before you can plant, before you can harvest, there's a maturing process.
Right.
And so if we build the house before, here's the thing. If you put all your money in the house and you get a place to stay, but you don't have anything to eat and you don't have a way to earn income, because that's the life. Like the produce is what's going to provide for the house. The house doesn't bring you any value other than safety. So
That's good.
yeah,
It's not everything you need to live.
no. And there's a practical rule as we're looking at this, that we are always encouraged to do producing before we get to the consuming. There's always a seed before harvest. And back in Solomon's day, there's an interesting correlation with this too, because Solomon worked on the temple before he worked on his house.
Right.
And this is a cool story too, because David actually did a lot of the preparation work. He had the master craftsman, forge these
Fashion, all the cool stuff
Right.
out of gold. And
right.
Yeah.
He had the plan. So when Solomon started, he worked on that house for the Lord first, and then he worked on his own home. And I love this because our spiritual house is actually very similar, and that we need to make sure, those materials were already provided by Jesus.
Yeah.
But it's our job to take what he has given us and to grow it into this holy temple for the Lord. And that's in the book of Ephesians, chapter 2.
So Proverbs 24 verses 30 through 34, there's almost like a poem about the tragedy of a lazy man. And we're going to read that poem right now. So here we go. I went by the field of the lazy man, and by the vineyard of the man devoid of understanding. And there it was, all overgrown with thorns. Its surface was covered with nettles. Its stone wall was broken down. When I saw it, I considered it well. I looked on it and received instruction. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. So shall your poverty come like a prowler, and your need like an armed man. So the wise man, which was, I believe, Solomon's, point of view.
Very likely.
Yeah. He saw the lazy man's field, and there it was, all overgrown with thorns. And the lazy man didn't plant those thorns or nettles, of course, and he didn't deliberately break down his own stone wall. Yet his laziness made these things happen, just as if he deliberately planned it all along.
So inaction actually is going to have a result, just as much as sowing, something good. Not sowing is also going to produce a problem. Yeah. So Proverbs 25:28 kind of talks about this too, because it talks about a person without self-control is like a city with broken down walls. And so what I see, we talk about this man who had a farm or a vineyard, and his walls are broke down. Well, there's an indicator here. Part of the reason is because he didn't have self-control. And so he said, when I saw it and I considered it well, this wise man that saw it learned from the mistakes of the lazy man, so he didn't have to repeat those same mistakes.
Yeah.
And so he learned his lesson without ever having to experience the pain.
A little sleep, a little slumber. So this phrase is representing how the lazy man rationalizes his neglect of duty. A little sleep causes no harm. Surely we all need a little slumber. The problem isn't sleep, is what we're talking about here. The problem is his neglect of duty.
Right. And in this case, he poured his time into sleep instead of doing what he should have been doing.
Yeah.
So we see Spurgeon said a quote. He said, "Rest assured that the best will become the worst if we neglect it. Neglect is all that's needed to produce evil. If you want to know the way of salvation, I must take some pains to tell you. But if you want to know the way to be lost, my reply is easy, for it is only a matter of negligence.
Yes.
So if you want to have a car accident, just take your hands off the steering wheel.
Yeah. Don't change your oil.
Right. Right.
Don't pump up your tire.
Right. Don't
That's
put gas in the road.
negligence. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next part of this is, so shall your poverty come like a prowler. And this is a harvest of the lazy man, really. The lazy man's neglect is considered sinful, and poverty will come upon them as suddenly, as strongly, and as forcibly as an armed man that you can't resist. And it's crazy because in this case, the lazy man actually thinks he's innocent, and that, like if he's considering, the breaking down of his home and the thorns coming up, it's almost like a action against him. Like, those thorns grew in my garden. How dare they? Or, that my stone wall broke down, and he's not even seeing, oh, I'm the cause of this problem. And, that's very foolish, I think, in Solomon's wording here.
Yeah. Yeah, think about
this is a foolish man.
If this was a lazy man, how he got the field, we don't know. But maybe he inherited it. Maybe he inherited it from a father who was a great businessman. And he just assumed that everything was just going to be successful because it was so good. But
to begin with,
something that's good doesn't stay good without you continuing to do what you're supposed to do with it.
Right.
So let's move forward. If we look down a couple chapters down in Proverbs 26, verses 13 through 16, there's another section talking about the nature of the lazy man. And they're still talking about a very similar aspect of this. The lazy man says, there's a lion in the road. A fierce lion is in the streets. And I love this because...
Is that normal, like back in the Hebrew days?
No.
Did they have lions roaming around?
No, because lions weren't even native to their land.
Oh, yeah.
So what this is saying is a lazy man will create
excuses.
something,
Yeah.
an excuse to avoid work that is actually impossible to happen.
Okay.
Yeah, but he thinks it's a good lie, you know?
Yeah. Here's another one. As a door turns on its hinges, so does the lazy man on his bed. And the humor in this verse is basically the fact that a door is stuck in place and it has hinges so it can move, in and out, but it can't leave a place. So it's saying, like, the lazy man, all it can do is stay in bed and not leave its bed, but, just turn around in his bed.
Well, the idea is that the door is moving but going nowhere.
Yeah.
And that's the idea of the lazy man. He's
Not
doing
going
stuff,
anywhere.
but he's not going to move. He's going to actually produce something that lasts. And so this lazy man, it keeps going on. It says, this lazy man buries his hand in the bowl, talking about a food bowl. But it says it wearies him to bring it back to his mouth.
Oh, that's so bad.
How lazy
That's so bad.
can you be? How lazy can you be?
Man, Solomon was like really dissing lazy people right there.
The lack of energy and initiative by the lazy man is so profound that he won't even care for himself. He won't even take the effort to meet his own personal needs.
Wow.
And the very thought of exerting himself is like, oh, that's exhausting. Like, I just can't do it.
That's a bad state to be in. Yeah. Okay. The lazy man is wiser in his own eyes than 7 men who can answer sensibly. So what does that mean? It means the lazy man may lack energy and initiative, but he doesn't lack a high opinion of himself. And he considers himself smarter and wiser than 7 men who can answer sensibly. And 7 here means perfection, abundance, or multitude. So when you read that, it's saying he is wiser in his own eyes than a multitude of the wisest men.
Of perfect counsel.
Perfect counsel.
He still says, in the midst of the best answer you could get, he still says, I got something better than that.
Mm.
And the problem is his answer is usually laziness. Like, I'm doing shortcuts because I don't want to work.
Yeah.
But as we're reading this whole passage, the one thing that really stood out to me is there's this imagery in the first section, which was talking about uh, you have this field that you purchased, and you want to have this beautiful vineyard and a house. And he's saying, before you move, make sure you do the first things first.
Right.
There's a preparation of how things work, that we need to make sure that we take the time to prepare our heart. We take the time to put the work in. If we're working at a job right now, and maybe there's certain dreams and goals that we have, be faithful in the job.
Yes.
Work hard, put in the hours, save the money, be diligent with that money. It's a time of preparation for the success that you're going to have.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just sit there and lay in your bed and dream of good times.
Right.
Good times are born through action.
Yes. And I will say this, laziness should not be in the same sentence as rest, because there's a difference between being lazy and resting, and we need rest in our lives. And that's not what we're saying here. We're not saying, you shouldn't be resting.
Amen.
Because
Well,
if we don't rest, we're not going to
God
be...
rested on the seventh day, right?
We're not going to be as productive. But remember what we're talking about here, what the principle that actually Solomon is saying here is that we should not be neglectful of those things that we are needing to do in life.
And talking about this word preparation,
Mm-hmm.
if you look at the Israel, the Jewish faith, do you know Jesus, as he was preparing to go to the cross, the day before Sabbath is actually known as Preparation Day.
Mm-hmm.
And this is interesting. So during that day, it's a day that they do all the chores in the house. They prepare the Passover meal that they're going to have, or if it's time for Passover. And if they're not, they're getting prepared for the Shabbat.
Mm-hmm.
So because on the Shabbat was the day of rest. So here's the cool, we're just talking about the importance of rest, but the preparation always comes. We prepare and accomplish what needs to be done. Mm-hmm. And then we close that door, and then we can enter into his rest.
Yes, I love that. And think of all of that work that you spent building a beautiful home, like laying the foundation, getting it safe, getting it prepared, having the furniture inside. You're enjoying the produce part. And then think of all the rest you can do while you're in that house and just enjoying the beauty and the peace and the comfort of it.
Amen. And so our challenge for us today is to make sure, first off, that we aren't being unwise in how we're using our time and the resources God gave us. We are stewards of what he's given us. I'd say, secondly, is if we have a plan that God gave us, then we need to begin to prepare to see it come to pass.
Yes.
Not to say that we should be workaholics or a slave to purpose, but there's a truth. God gave you something to do. He put it in your hand. Let's do it wisely. Let's do it faithfully, and let's get it done. Let's get into our moments where we can rest and enjoy that too.
So we're so glad that you guys joined us today for the Way of Wisdom. And it's hard to believe that we only have 3 more days left to complete this series. So make sure that you are staying tuned each day with us. And I know tomorrow we're going to look at some of the comments that you guys have been posting, just seeing what you've been thinking about Proverbs. So that's going to be a good time together. But we love you. Have a good evening, and we will see you tomorrow.